Your death is not what you think it is. I know that sounds impossible. I know grief is real and loss cuts deep, and I'm not trying to diminish the pain of losing someone you love. But what I'm about to tell you will change how you think about death forever. Based on 50 years of working with the deepest equations in physics, I can say this with complete confidence. You never actually die, not in the way you imagine, not in the way we've been taught to think about it. Death, as we understand it, is an illusion. A persistent, stubborn illusion that comes from our limited perspective on the nature of time and reality itself. I'm Leonard Susskind, and I've spent my career exploring the mathematical structure of the universe. Black holes, string theory, quantum mechanics, and what the math tells us about death is profound and disturbing and beautiful all at once. Your grandmother who passed away 5 years ago, she's still there. Your pet who died when you were 12, still there. Every person who has ever lived, every moment of their existence, is preserved forever in the four-dimensional structure of space-time, not in memory, not in some metaphysical afterlife. Literally, physically there. This isn't wishful thinking. This isn't philosophy trying to comfort us about mortality. This is what Einstein's special relativity actually says about the nature of time and existence. And most people have never been told the full implications of what we discovered over a century ago. The block universe, that's what we call it in physics. Reality is a four-dimensional structure where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, where every moment that has ever occurred is frozen in place, permanent, indestructible. Where death doesn't erase you from existence, it just marks the boundary of your four-dimensional world line. Let me show you something that will break your understanding of time. Right now, as you watch this, you think you're experiencing the present moment. You think the past has vanished and the future hasn't arrived yet. But that's not how reality works. That's just how your brain processes information. The truth is far stranger. Simultaneity is relative. What counts as no depends on your reference frame. Events that are simultaneous for you are not simultaneous for someone moving at a different velocity. There is no universal present moment. No cosmic now that sweeps through the universe, making things real as it passes. Imagine your friend Alice is traveling past Earth in a spacecraft at 90% the speed of light, heading toward the Andromeda galaxy. Because of her velocity, her slice through space-time is tilted relative to yours. Her present moment in Andromeda corresponds to events that, from your perspective, are either 800 years in the future or 800 years in the past, depending on which direction she's traveling. She changes direction, and her present in Andromeda shifts by 1600 years. Did Alice do anything to Andromeda? No. She just changed her velocity near Earth. A way to make sense of this is if all those moments in Andromeda's history, past and future from your perspective, actually exist. The difference between Alice's now and your now isn't about which events are real. It's about which slice through the pre-existing four-dimensional structure you happen to call the present. This is the block universe. All of space-time, all of history, every event that has ever happened or will ever happen, existing as a complete four-dimensional structure. Your birth is there. Your death is there. All equally real. All equally permanent. You are not a three-dimensional object moving through time. Dimensional object extended through space-time, your world line, we call it. A long, curved thread stretching from birth to death through the four-dimensional structure of reality. Gets personal. When we say someone has died, what do we really mean? We mean their world line has ended. No new space-time coordinates are being added to their history. Their causal influence on the future has stopped. They can no longer interact with new events. But their world line, their four-dimensional existence, that's still there. Every moment of their life exists at specific space-time coordinates. Your grandmother at age 5 playing in her backyard. Still there. Your grandmother on her wedding day, radiant with joy. Your grandmother in her final moments, surrounded by family. Still there at those space-time coordinates. This isn't metaphorical. The mathematics of relativity is precise and unforgiving. Space-time events don't disappear. They don't fade away. They're woven into the four-dimensional fabric of reality permanently. When we feel the pain of loss, we're not mourning someone who has ceased to exist. We're mourning our inability to reach them at their space-time coordinates. They're inaccessible to us, not non-existent. Think about it this way. Right now, there are events happening in the Andromeda galaxy. I can't see them in real time because light from there takes 2.5 million years to reach us. I can't travel there to witness them. From my perspective, those events might as well be in another universe. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. They exist at their space-time coordinates, real and physical and permanent, just inaccessible to me. Death is the same. The people we've lost exist at their space-time coordinates, real and physical and permanent, just inaccessible to us now. But there's something even more profound hiding in these equations. Something about the nature of consciousness and identity that most people never consider. You think of yourself as a continuous entity persisting through time. Yesterday's you and today's you, the same person. But in the block universe, you are a 4-dimensional structure. Today's you is just a 3-dimensional cross-section through that structure. Yesterday's you is a different cross-section. Are they the same? In what sense? Consider your hand. Your left hand and right hand are both parts of you, spatially separated but connected. Similarly, yesterday's you and today's you are both parts of your 4-dimensional world line, separated but connected. We don't say your left hand is the same as your right hand. We say they're both parts of the same person. Likewise, yesterday's you isn't the same as today's you in the strictest sense. They're different temporal parts of the same 4-dimensional entity. This has disturbing implications for what death actually means. When we say someone has died, we mean their 4-dimensional world line has reached its end boundary. But every cross-section of that world line, every moment of their existence, remains in the space-time structure. The 5-year-old version of your grandmother doesn't die when she turns 6. Year-old exists forever at her space-time coordinates. Similarly, when your grandmother's world line ends, all the earlier temporal parts of her world line continue to exist. From this perspective, death is not annihilation, it's completion. The 4-dimensional sculpture of a life reaches its final boundary. But the sculpture itself, carved into the space-time manifold, indestructible, real in a way that transcends our ordinary understanding of existence. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is cold comfort. That the dead exist somewhere in space-time doesn't ease the pain of not being able to hug them, talk to them, share new experiences with them. And you're right. The physics doesn't make grief disappear. Loss is real. The end of causal connection is devastating. When someone's world line terminates, they stop creating new moments, stop influencing the future, stop adding to their story. That ending is genuinely tragic, but here's what the physics does tell us. Nothing is ever truly lost. Every moment of love, every shared laugh, every word of kindness exists permanently in the 4-dimensional record. Your grandmother reading you stories as a child, that event exists as surely as this moment exists. The universe keeps perfect records. Information, once created, is never destroyed. This isn't just philosophical speculation. Quantum mechanics tells us that information conservation is a fundamental law of nature. Every photon that ever bounced off your grandmother's face, carrying visual information about her, still exists somewhere in the universe, traveling outward at the speed of light. Some of those photons left Earth decades ago and are now crossing interstellar space, carrying her image with them. In a very real sense, she's still out there, in the electromagnetic radiation that once interacted with her, spreading through the cosmos at light speed. The universe doesn't forget. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about what consciousness might mean in this picture. Your experience of being alive, of existing in this moment, what is that? It's the information processing happening in your brain right now. Your neurons firing, signals propagating, computations occurring. Your brain constructing a model of reality and your place in it. This processing creates the subjective experience of now, of being present, of existing. But a nanosecond ago, your brain was in a slightly different state, running slightly different computations. And a nanosecond from now, it will be in another state. All these brain states exist along your world line in space-time, each one generating its own experience of now, its own sense of being present and alive. The experience of time flowing forward is really the experience of each brain state being causally connected to the next, memories being formed, moments linking together in the thermodynamic direction. This means that every moment of consciousness you've ever experienced still exists. Your consciousness at age 5, wondering about the world with innocent curiosity, that's still there at its space-time coordinates. Your consciousness as a teenager, full of dreams and uncertainty, still there. Your consciousness in this very moment processing these ideas, this too will become a permanent part of the four-dimensional structure. Now, here's the truly mind-bending implication. If consciousness is information processing, and if all the information processing states of your brain exist permanently in space-time, then in what sense do you ever stop being conscious? Your final moments of consciousness before death, those exist forever at their space-time coordinates. But so do all the earlier moments. The you who is 5 years old is still conscious at those coordinates. The you who is 20 is still conscious at those coordinates. Every moment of awareness, every instance of subjective experience, preserved eternally in the block universe. Death, from this perspective, is not the end of consciousness. It's the end of new conscious moments being added to your world line. But the conscious moments that already exist, they remain conscious forever. Right now, at this very moment, there's a version of you at every age you've ever been, all existing simultaneously in the four-dimensional structure, all equally real, all experiencing their own version of now. This transforms how we think about identity across time. The common view is that you're a single stream of consciousness flowing from past to future, with death marking the end of that stream. But the physics suggests something different. You're not a stream. You're an entire river system with every moment of consciousness existing as a permanent feature in the landscape of space-time. Death doesn't dry up the river. It just marks where no new tributaries are added. Let me tell you about something called the eternalist view of time, because this is where philosophy meets physics in the most profound way. Most people are presentists. They believe only the present moment is real. The past has vanished, the future doesn't exist yet. But presentism is incompatible with special relativity. If only the present is real, then what counts as real changes depending on your reference frame. Reality becomes observer-dependent in an arbitrary way. The physics forces us toward eternalism. The view that all times past, present, and future are equally real, Einstein himself understood this. When his close friend Michel Besso died in 1955, Einstein wrote to Besso's family, "Has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us who believe in physics know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Einstein wasn't being metaphorical. He was stating what the equations of relativity actually imply about the nature of time and existence. The distinction between past, present, and future, the sense that now is somehow special, that the present is where reality lies, while the past is gone and the future uncertain. This is how our brains process information, not how space-time actually works. We experience temporal flow because we're information processing systems embedded in a static four-dimensional structure. The flow is our experience of that embedding, not a fundamental feature of reality itself. This has practical implications for how we think about memory and anticipation. When you remember your grandmother, you're not accessing some faded copy of a vanished past. You're accessing information about events that still exist at their space-time coordinates. The events are as real as this present moment. They're just located elsewhere in the four-dimensional structure. Similarly, when you worry about future events, predict what already exists ahead of you in space-time, even though you can't access that information directly. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, quantum mechanics. Doesn't quantum uncertainty contradict the block universe? If the future is genuinely undetermined, if different outcomes are possible until measurement occurs, how can the future already exist? This is one of the deepest questions in modern physics, and I'll be honest, we don't have a complete answer. Different interpretations of quantum mechanics handle this differently. World's interpretation is correct, and I think it might be then the block universe extends to include all possible quantum branches. Possible outcome of every quantum measurement exists in the four-dimensional structure. The past doesn't just exist, it exists in all its quantum branches. When your grandmother made quantum mechanically uncertain decisions throughout her life, all the possible versions of those decisions exist in different branches of the universal wave function. There's not just one world line for each person, but a vast collection of world lines exploring every quantum possibility. In this picture, death becomes even stranger. When someone's world line ends in our branch of reality, countless versions of them continue in other branches. The grandmother who died in our timeline is still alive in branches where different quantum events occurred. Every possible version of every person who has ever lived exists somewhere in the vast quantum multiverse. Nothing is ever truly lost because everything that could possibly exist does exist, spread across the infinite branches of possibility. But even without quantum many-worlds, even in a classical block universe, death is not what we think it is. The core insight remains. Space-time events don't disappear. Four-dimensional structures don't vanish. The people we lose are written into the fabric of reality itself, permanent residents of the space-time manifold. This changes how we should think about living. If every moment of your life becomes a permanent part of the cosmic record, then every moment matters in a new way. The kindness you show, the love you give, the beauty you create, these become eternal features of the universe's structure. They don't fade with time because time doesn't work the way we thought it did. They're carved into reality itself, preserved forever in the four-dimensional block, and it changes how we should think about legacy. Usually, we think of legacy as the influence you have after death. Your actions ripple forward through time to affect future generations. But there's another kind of legacy, a deeper one. Your entire world line, your complete four-dimensional existence, becomes part of the universe's permanent record. You don't just influence the future. You become a fixed part of reality's structure, as permanent as the laws of physics themselves. Here's something that might comfort you or disturb you, depending on your perspective. Right now, at this very moment, everyone you've ever lost is still experiencing their lives at their space-time coordinates. Your grandmother is still reading you that bedtime story. Your friend who died too young is still laughing at that joke you shared. Your pet is still running toward you with pure joy. These moments aren't memories, they're ongoing realities, existing eternally in the space-time manifold. Time doesn't heal these wounds by erasing the past. Time reveals that the wounds were never about erasure, they were about accessibility. The people we love exist beyond our ability to reach them, but they exist, they are there, living their moments, experiencing their consciousness, being themselves at their coordinates in the four-dimensional structure of everything. But here's what might be the most important insight of all. If you never actually die, if your world line becomes a permanent feature of space-time, then how you construct that world line matters immensely. Every choice you make, every moment of consciousness you experience, every act of love or cruelty becomes an eternal part of reality's fabric. You're not just living your life, you're carving your existence into the structure of the universe itself. The person you choose to be, the love you give, the consciousness you develop, these don't disappear at death. They become fixed features of the cosmic landscape, as permanent as stars, as enduring as the laws of nature. In the deepest sense, you are building something eternal. Your four-dimensional world line is your sculpture in space-time, your permanent contribution to the architecture of reality. So when people ask about the meaning of life in the face of death, physics offers a surprising answer. Life has meaning precisely because death is not what we think it is. The love doesn't end. The consciousness doesn't vanish. The moments don't fade. They all become part of the permanent record, written into the very structure of space-time itself. You are not a temporary arrangement of atoms that will scatter at death. You are a four-dimensional structure in the fabric of reality. And that structure is eternal. Your grandmother still exists. She always will, not in some metaphysical realm, but right here in our universe, at her space-time coordinates, as real as this moment, as permanent as mathematics itself. Death is not the end of existence. It's the completion of a four-dimensional masterpiece that will endure as long as space-time itself exists. And that, I think, changes everything about how we understand what it means to be alive, what it means to love, and what it means to lose someone. The physics is clear. The mathematics is unforgiving. You never actually die, you just reach the boundary of your world line in this magnificent four-dimensional structure we call reality. But every moment of that world line, every instance of consciousness, every act of love remains forever carved into the eternal architecture of space-time itself. Thank you for listening. Live your life knowing that every moment you create becomes a permanent part of the universe's story. Make it beautiful. Make it meaningful. Make it worthy of eternity, because that's exactly how long it's going to last.